Greetings, and welcome to Chaim's weekly podcast, recorded live in Richardson, Texas. We invite you now to join us for one of our synagogue's Shabbat messages.
Well, hello, shalom everybody, Shabbat shalom. Maybe if everybody can... Oh, there are more people than that, I guess. Okay. You'll be still. You promise?
Promise, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for having us here. We really appreciate that. And thank you, David. Where is David? For taking the chance with us, because we never met before. We came all the way from Israel. And the reason we are here in Dallas this week is actually because of I Am Second. How many of you heard about the ministry I Am Second? Okay, some of you. I Am Second makes the best video testimonies in the world. And when we saw what they do, we contacted them and asked them, can you please train us to do the same? That's why we are here. But today we are going to talk to you about evangelism in Israel. But before that, I'll say once again, my name is Eitan and I was born and raised in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And this is Stephan Silver.
Hi.
Say hello. And we are working under Israel College of the Bible, but the ministry that we are heading called One for Israel. And you can find out more about what we do on the website, oneforisrael.org. And we will tell you in the next 45 minutes more in depth what we are doing and why we are doing and why is it important, at least in our eyes. Okay, so a bit more about us. How many of you heard about the organization Campus Crusade for Christ? The weirdest name, I know. But they were the ones to give us the first sponsorship 5 or 6 years ago when we started. And now we shift under Israel College of the Bible in Israel. And the thing about us, we came together, different Jewish Israeli believers in Yeshua. We came together, all of us from different places, different congregations, different backgrounds. All of us have one thing in common, which is wanting to glorify the name of Yeshua in Israel, to Israelis, sharing the gospel of Yeshua in Israel. And that's because we believe there are many, many good ways that the world can bless Israel, many good ways. But we believe that the single most important way to bless Israel is by introducing Yeshua the Messiah to them. Agree with me?
Yes.
Thank you. And that's what we are all about. So we are using media and internet to bring Yeshua to Israelis.
So I guess that most of you know why Israel is so important in the sense of sharing the gospel with the Jewish people. And usually many times we do this presentation with congregations or churches that are less messianic orientated, or maybe have a little less understanding about Israel and the importance of Israel, the place of Israel and God's plans and purposes. And so we usually expand on this a bit more. But obviously God chose Israel. Whatever God chooses to bless, we always see that Satan, the enemy, is always there to try and destroy it, to try and bring it down. And that's kind of our history as a people from the past, ever since we were chosen, really. That the enemy has really been trying to destroy and to come against, and I think the highest point of that was when Yeshua came, when Jesus came, and eventually was rejected. The blindness that was there, that we know that God Himself put there, but also since then many things that have come along and continue to prevent the Jewish people, our people, from being able to see who Yeshua the Messiah really is. We read in the Gospels that. More specifically what Rabbi Shaul, Paul says that the gospel is for the Jew first, and then also for the Gentiles later on. But one verse that I just wanted to read out was actually in Romans 10, 14 and 15, where it says, speaking about the Jewish people, how then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed, and how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? How shall they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace, who bring glad tidings of good things. And that's really what we are doing. What we want to do is to be able to bring the message of Yeshua to the Jewish people. But obviously, to the Jewish people, it's a difficult task. And in Israel, it's somewhat of even more complicated. And that's why we are doing things the way that we are doing them. And that's what we want to share with you now. Why Israel? We've just mentioned, but why the internet? Why online?
Okay, so most of you probably don't know that about Israel. How many of you been to Israel before? That's nice, quite a lot. Very good. You probably don't know that, but Israel is leading the world when it comes to using the internet and media. 99% of all the households in Israel is connected to the internet, a high-speed connection. Between the ages of 13 and 34, over 97% will have a Facebook account. How many of you have a Facebook account? See, that's more than the States then. We are the number one in the world in the amount of time we spend on YouTube watching videos. And we are number one in the world in the amount of time we spend online in general, which is twice the amount than the average American person. So when you eat, when you sleep, we surf the web. That's what we do. After Taiwan, we are second in the world in the amount of smartphones that we have. I actually have two now. One works, one doesn't. And a good example of how internet is so part of the culture in Israel is that the biggest protest that was ever happened in Israel was from the beginning all the way till the end was brought up together by Facebook. Millions of people in Israel came out to the streets. Maybe you heard about the protest about 2 years ago because of the prices of housing and food and everything. Millions of people came out to the streets protesting. Everything was arranged by Facebook. Okay? There are many more examples. VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, you know it as Skype. Okay? So the technology behind Skype is developed in Israel. PHP. PHP is the language that today most of the websites in the world are based upon, which was developed by Israelis in Israel. The firewall that you all use, many of Intel processors in your computer, those things were developed in Israel. Most of you been to Israel, but it's important for us to emphasize it because many people, when they read the Old Testament, they read about tents and donkeys and those kind of things, and they think that Israel still looks like that today. And why is it so important for us to use the internet when it comes to the Messiah? Okay, I'll give you an example from my life story. When I was a teenager, when I was a kid, every so often my father would get a phone call. My father is a believer. He would get a phone call from my older brother telling him, Abba, Mom put the New Testament in the trash again. Stop forgetting it in the living room table all the time. Okay? So it's not something for a Jewish Israeli that you want to be seen with the New Testament or investigating about Yeshua in front of your friends, in front of your family. When I came to know the Lord, it took me a very long time before I was able to share with my friends or with my family that I am a follower of Yeshua. Okay, so it's very important that Israelis will have a safe place where they can find out the truth about Yeshua. Okay, they can enjoy privacy, searching for themselves, and they can enjoy freedom to check out whatever they want without anyone stopping them. Another thing we found is that on the internet, people tend to open up, but really open up. They share their deepest thoughts with you. And I think that's because, if I'm talking to somebody online, I don't know how he looks like. I don't know his name. He can call himself Bugs Bunny, right? It's not like tomorrow I'm going to walk in the street and point a finger at him and say, oh, you don't know what he told me yesterday, I'm never going to know who this guy is. So people can open up their hearts and share whatever they want to share, okay? So that's very important as well. And we also saw that we are able to develop really deep and meaningful relationships with those seekers online. And it gets to a point where we turn those online relationships to an offline relationships and connect them with congregations where they live. Here is an example of some interesting statistics. Google in Hebrew in Israel. Okay, not in English in the States, in Hebrew in Israel only. Okay. Every month, over 80,000 Israelis are Googling Messiah. Right? That's interesting. And Yeshua, that's even more interesting, because you can see why all the Orthodox people will look for Messiah. But for Yeshua, over 20,000, and we are trying so many different methods in Israel, all the ministries and all the organizations that come and try to share the gospel in the streets and in the train stations, but there are 20,000 who are already looking. We just need to cast a wide web, right, and catch them. That's it.
And when you actually put those numbers together, although they don't really look like a lot in themselves, but when you take Israel's population and you put those together over a period of a year, you're getting about 1 million searches, a bit more than that even, in terms like this. And so you can see that there is a lot of searching going on when it comes to the New Testament, when it comes to Yeshua, which is really something amazing, I think. Messiah, maybe something that could be a bit more general, and a lot of people could look for it, not necessarily in the context of Yeshua, but nonetheless, still looking for it and searching for it.
Yeah, and the New Testament. Remote is going crazy. Okay. So we came to an understanding that we have to develop quite a few websites to share the truth. And why is that? I'll give you an example. Maybe if I took the train 6-7 years ago from Tel Aviv to Haifa, and I sat by somebody and, we started to talk about life, and I shared with him that I am a Messianic Jew. So when he goes back home, what is he doing? Is he going to ask his grandmother what are Messianic Jews? No, he's going to Google it, of course. So he goes and he Googles Messianic Jews, and the first results to come up are the anti-missionary websites, okay? The Yad L'Achim websites. So it always reminds me of the verse, the evil one comes and snatches the seed away, okay, after we put it there. So we realized we really need to do something about it. It doesn't make sense that there is there is darkness but no light online. So we started to develop those websites, and we will share a few of them with you now. The largest one called iGod. It's like iPod or iPhone, iGod. And it's based on the idea of apologetics. And we thought about two kinds of apologetics. The one kind, we call it Jewish apologetics. It's questions like, how can Yeshua be the Messiah after crusades and pogroms and Inquisition and Holocaust and those things, okay? And the other kind of apologetics, I call it the Greek apologetics, stuff like science and philosophy, Josh McDowell style. So we have both of those things online, and we work together with ministries like Dr. Michael Brown and Josh McDowell, and they gave us for free the materials, and we translated and adapted to the Israeli culture. And we have about 200 to 300 objections, or answering those objections on the website in a very academic level, very good level. This website, it's called Ex-Rabbi, and it's 10 testimonies of Orthodox rabbis who came to know the Lord. I'm sure that when you're listening to a testimony of a Jewish person who came to know the Lord, it's really deep, it's wow, it's something. Try to imagine how deep and meaningful and wow it is, the story of an Orthodox rabbi who came from one extreme all the way to the other side. So when you read those testimonies, if you can read Hebrew, it really touches your heart. You cannot ignore it, okay? And this is a good example, Rabbi Lichtenstein, that Stephan will now read to you.
You can see this is like a banner that switches, and so you can see all the little ones down the bottom there, but we always put this one here because most people don't realize what it is like for a Jewish person to even approach the New Testament, to even approach faith in Yeshua. And in the white there is it's an excerpt from Rabbi Lichtenstein's testimony. And what it says is, he says, I thought that the New Testament was a filthy book, a source of pride, selfishness, hate, anti-Semitism, and violence. But when I opened it, I felt how it captivated me in a wonderful and peculiar way. Suddenly, light and glory shone into my soul, into my inner being. I was searching for thorns, but I found roses, pearls instead of stones. Instead of hate, I found love. Instead of vengeance, forgiveness, and instead of bondage, I found liberty. So perhaps you guys, being here in a Messianic congregation, realize that a bit more. But even for me, every time I read that, it really resounds just how many boundaries there are, how high the walls are that Jewish people need to get over and overcome before they can really even approach. But on the other hand, also the power of God's word to be able to penetrate even the darkest of places, the people that are the farthest away, perhaps, and bring that truth and that light and that freedom into their lives. And I guess these guys that are on here, and many other people like them that we don't have the testimonies, are really no different than Rabbi Shaul, right? Than Paul, because he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, and he went from that and the truth of God that came into his life and gave him that revelation that he so needs. I guess what you'll see also throughout the websites as we go on, there's a couple more after this one, is that each website kind of has a different take on the gospel, meaning it's aimed at a different audience. Because in Israel, we're aiming mainly at Hebrew-speaking Jewish people, but we get Hebrew speakers that aren't Jewish. We have Arab people that come into our website sometimes. We have people that are not Jewish at all. And you have the religious, you have secular, you have people that do know a bit about the Tanakh, about the Old Testament. You have some people that do not know anything. And so each website kind of has a different approach. So obviously the iGod is kind of more academic for people that are more educated, perhaps. The ex-rabbi, perhaps for people that come from a more traditional background, more connected with that side of things. This website is the New Testament website. And basically, we offer the New Testament in a variety of methods. The reason for this is because in Israel, the New Testament isn't available in Hebrew to be purchased in the major bookstores. Here you have Barnes & Noble and all kinds of other ones, right? I guess you can walk in, you can buy a New Testament in whatever language you wanted, with leather bound or hardback, softback, right? Whatever you want. Different translations. Well, in Israel, if you go into the major bookstores, you can find books in Hebrew about mysticism, about Buddhism, about you can find the Talmud and all the Judaism writings. You can find basically anything that you want. You can even find the Quran in Hebrew. But you will not be able to find a New Testament in Hebrew in the major bookstores in Israel, simply because they don't want to sell it to the population. And so it's really something that isn't available to the masses. So what we've done here is we've made it available. People can either order a hard copy and we'll send it home to them in the mail. People can download it onto their computer to read. There's an app, so people can use it on their iPads, smartphones, tablets, whatever. People can download it also as an MP3 file, so they can listen to it either on the computer or when they're on the go through their smartphones and tablets. Everything. So they can. It really makes it a lot more accessible, so that people can have that. Have this book, which is so vital to also understanding about who the Messiah really is. Another thing is up the top, there's a banner also that switches. Here it says Elohim hu Ahava, God is love, from 1 John chapter 4. The reason that we put that up there, again, if you think back to what the rabbi said, that what he thought the New Testament was before he actually opened it and read it, that's what most Israelis think. They think it's a really, really evil book, the New Testament. And so when they see these quotations like God is love, or I have not cast away my people, things like that, it triggers something. Wow, that's really what the New Testament says? I thought it said something like, you need to kill all the Jews or something like that, because that's what they think is written in there based on everything that has happened on the many hundreds of years that have passed. So that's what that website is about there.
Yeah, you can also read the New Testament online on the website itself. One of my biggest hobbies is photography. And growing up in Israel, when I started to share my faith with my friends, one of their main objections were, how can you go to the other side, considering that Christian people all over the world hate us so much? And in their minds, they're thinking, crusades and inquisitions and pogroms and Holocaust, those kind of things that were made in the name of Yeshua to the Jews, okay? So it was important for me to bring to my Israeli friends the point that, okay, yes, many Christians do hate us, true, but there are many Christians who love us because of Yeshua. And this is basically, you can see the flags. It's, I don't know how many countries from all over the world. Different people who were willing to say and stand on the fact that they love Israel because of Yeshua, because of Jesus. And it's just portrait of those Israelis. And if you go on the website and go down, you will see people can comment from their Facebook account. And there are many, many, many comments there. And, you see the Christian people come and say, oh, I love Israel, go Israel, those kind of things. And then you see the Israelis, and they come there and they are in shock. What? I thought Christian people hate us? Where is that love coming from? I can't believe it. Thank you so much. Wow. Very surprised. And hopefully it will trigger something in their hearts to try and understand, why do you love me because of Jesus? What's going on?
What is the flag for the nation of Texas?
Maybe you should make one today.
True.
This is a continent, not a country.
This website's called The One. As you can see, it's we also have it in English and in Arabic. We translated it. The main point behind this website is that the average Israeli doesn't understand the Bible, doesn't understand the Tanakh, the one that most people will have in their houses. The reason, because the language is so old. Who here has ever read the Old King James? Yeah. Okay, so most people. And I guess you guys, you read the Torah portions, and it's not an easy language to understand. The language that was written, that is in the Tanakh today, is like thousands of years old. The Old King James is 400 or 500 years old, I think, right? So it's that much more difficult. And the average Israeli learns Tanakh, the Old Testament, in school, but it's always something, it's like this encrypted code that only the very wise Pharisees or whoever the wise scholars can understand, and they need to tell us what it means because we just can't understand it on our own. And so when it comes to messianic prophecy in the Tanakh, people just aren't aware of it. It scares them, so they don't want to even read it. And even if they did go ahead and read it, they probably wouldn't be able to understand anything because of the language, because it's written in such a different way, especially the prophets and Psalms and Proverbs and places like that, where the language, it's almost like a completely different language. The alphabet's the same, but it's like different words, different structuring of phrases. And so this website, we have 36, I think it is, 36 little pictures like this. And each picture is actually a messianic prophecy. And so what we have is in the blue, we have a little like cartoon picture thing. And then the blue, it's just a very simple modern Hebrew explanation of what the verse is. And then beneath that is the actual verse itself. So can anybody maybe guess which messianic prophecy this is here? Yeah, Zechariah 9:9, exactly. The Messiah King coming lowly and riding on a donkey. And so most people, when they read that verse, they won't understand what it's talking about. But when they have a picture that goes with it, a simple explanation in modern Hebrew, and then the verse, when they go ahead, they can go and they can reference in their Tanakh, which they most likely have at home, and then perhaps understand. And we know throughout the Tanakh, throughout the Old Testament, and this website does it very well, it really paints a very clear picture of who the Messiah is supposed to be, when he's supposed to come, what his character will be like, what he will do. And that gives people a lot more of a better understanding of who the Messiah is, and it kind of helps us bring them to that place of, okay, so who are we talking about here? And then from there we can maybe move with them into other things. That's the main point of that website there. Recently, just at the beginning of the year, we have all these websites, but we've been wanting to move more into the area of media in terms of videos and audio. And so what we decided to do was to begin a radio station, an internet-based radio station, which would broadcast both in Israel and out of Israel. So the best way, of course, to do that is on the internet. The main point of the station is to build and to encourage the body of Messiah both in Israel and around the world, and also to be another evangelism tool, to be able to give people that they can play it at their work or wherever, and have teachings on there where the truth is taught, where people can tune in from wherever they are and be able to listen. The station is called Radio Agape. You guys can tune in. That's the URL is agape.fm. You can feel free to tune in. We're always kind of enlarging the music that we have there, the teachings that we have on there. There's English teachings. We're working on the Hebrew teachings at the moment. But that's the main point, is having also a radio station where people can tune in and listen and praise and worship and hear God's truth being proclaimed.
Well, one of the things, as I mentioned before, about Israel is that we love YouTube, and we are on YouTube all the time, just, wasting our time. And since Israelis are already on YouTube, why don't we go on YouTube and share with them the truth, right? So we decided if we are going to do it, we are going to do it high quality. And the benefit with working under Israel College of the Bible is that they have an amazing studio that we are using. And we are recording those videos. And basically what we are doing is, from the first website, all the apologetics we are taking, we are turning the articles into scripts, and then we are filming them. So, for example, somebody is Googling, where was God during the Holocaust? Or whatever question, and the YouTube video will pop up, and then he can watch us and answer that question in 5 minutes. Okay, so variety of faces, and then we invite them to come to the website, check out some more. It's really important for us to use YouTube, again, because we spend so much time on YouTube.
The other side to these videos also are videos that we create in English, which are intended to reach more of the church around the world and teach why Israel is indeed so important. What's the importance of reaching out to the Jewish people? Where is Israel in God's plans and purposes in the world today, especially with all of the replacement theology and all these other things that are going on. So we do the videos in Hebrew that are evangelism based, and then we also do videos in English which are more kind of teaching based for Christians mainly around the world.
How many hits do you get on YouTube?
We actually didn't publish anything on YouTube yet. We are building an archive, and when we have a large archive, then we will put it on YouTube and advertise it. Because you know how when you watch something on YouTube, at the end, YouTube will offer you something else? So if we only have 2 or 3 videos, YouTube is not going to offer more of our stuff. If we have 50 videos there and we pay to advertise those videos, we'll have a very strong, the impact will be very different. So I am second, again the reason we are here. He looks scary, doesn't he? He looks scary. I wouldn't want to come across him at night in the middle of the street. I don't know about you.
It's the lighting, it's not.
Yeah, mafia boy. Anyways, so we would like to do what I Am Second is doing. Let Jewish Israelis, and maybe not only Jewish Israelis, but let Israelis sit down on that white couch and tell their story, how they came to know the Lord. It's not going to somebody with the Bible on the head and you must believe or you go to hell. No, you just share your story with them and let them, you let them see themselves in your shoes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe I had some problems with drugs or alcohol or I don't know what. Oh, I also have problems with alcohol, and oh, wow, Yeshua took it away from you. Maybe he can help me too. So we are hoping to start working on that soon. That will be quite a project. All of our websites are connected to a system that we've built. And on that system, when an Israeli or Hebrew speaker comes on that system, he can ask us whatever question he wants. And it's kind of like, the phrase, grill a Christian? No? No? So it's grill a messianic believer, if you like. Okay, they can ask us whatever they want. They can challenge us, bring any kind of objection they like. And to be honest, I think after 100 questions, they start kind of chewing the same kind of questions all over again and again. So it's getting easier and easier to copy-paste. But what we found is that we are able to form really good relationships on that forum with the people, and then turn it to live relationships. And you see at the bottom, story of why. I'm going to share with you an example how this system worked for us. I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago that a major in the IDF, who is also a student in the university in his free time, he's studying Christianity. Back then he was studying Christianity, but not from a biblical point of view, but from a very critical and academic point of view. Emphasizing the history of the popes and not what we would like them to know. And he was doing a research, a paper, and he came across one of our websites, the first one, iGod, read some articles, and it really impressed him. So he came on the forum and started to ask questions. And for quite a while, maybe 3 months or so, he would come, post a question, get an answer, come back again, and we have this relationship with him, me and Stephan. And after 3 months, he sent me a personal email asking if he can meet with us. Now, try to picture, a major in the IDF, we have a family and everything, and his relationship with us on the internet is based on answering theological questions, So in his mind, we must look like priests or rabbis, we must be in our 80s at least, with this huge beard, minimum. So we said, yeah, sure, let's meet. And we decided to meet in Haifa in a restaurant, and when we came there, he was in shock. Those two clowns. He was expecting somebody older, obviously, but he was able to come across that stumbling block, maybe. And Yaron gave his heart to the Lord later on. He became a believer. He's attending a congregation. And he actually became a student in Israel College of the Bible, so we see him every week. And that's very interesting. The thing with Yaron is that he gave little hints here and there, about his faith to his family. They decided to kind of ignore it. And until at some point, 2 weeks ago, the anti-missionary organization got a hold of the mother of his wife, and they told her some really bad things about him, as you can imagine. And they had a huge fight, or at least on her side, and she decided that she wants to get a divorce. So you can pray for Yaron and his family. He has small little kids, and we are praying for him really hard. And she agreed. I was talking to him yesterday, and she agreed that she will go to a therapist, and then he will go, and they will try to work on the marriage. But she still wants a divorce in the general idea. So you can definitely pray for him. Why? Yeah, it's best if we don't share his name, so we can call him Y.
And that really is one example of many that we praise the Lord have come to faith through the forum specifically. I think there was I remember another story of a woman who started writing, and she nicknamed herself Mibulbelet, which means like confused one, somebody who's confused. And she was talking with us back and forth, and eventually we connected her with a congregation in the Carmiel area, up further north, because that's not where we are. And a while later, we got a phone call from the pastor up there, and he said, this lady that you connected us with, Then she's come to the congregation a few times. Now she got saved. Her husband got saved. Their 3 kids, the whole family, are all now coming to our congregation. And lots of stories like that, which are really, really encouraging. Some of which I think we're not even aware completely of the amount of people that seeds have been sown into their hearts. Who knows Jews for Jesus? So they did a big campaign, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I guess, in Israel. And a friend of ours works there. And so through this campaign, they always have a phone number where people can call when they see the big billboard signs, which they call the big billboard signs. So they have this call center. And apparently an older guy who must have been about 70 from some kind of a kibbutz called up, and as soon as he called up, they started really sharing the gospel with him. And he said, well, I'm a believer already. You don't need to share the gospel with me. And so they said, well, if you're a believer, then why are you calling? And he said, oh, well, I just wanted to talk with some other believers. I don't really know any other ones. I didn't really know where they were, or if there were any other Jewish believers around. And they said, well, if you don't know, then how did you come to faith? And so he said, well, there's this website, iGod, and I went on there and I started reading, and eventually, it's the most conservative way of coming to faith. But the guy read, he believed, I guess he prayed at some point, and he accepted, he realized, Yeshua is the Messiah, and he accepted him into his life. And we wouldn't have known about that unless our friend had heard about it and told it back to us. And so I think that this forum, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's kind of the tip of the iceberg, what we do know about. But God is using that to plant many seeds in many other people's hearts. I think the reason that we're aware of that even more so is because each question that is asked, it turns into like a thread. So somebody will ask a question, we'll answer. They may have another comment, we'll answer again. And then there's all these questions. But on the side of each question, we can see how many times that thread has been viewed. And we've seen, really, I'm quite blown away by it, even myself, just to see how many thousands of people, even tens of thousands, on a single thread. So one person asks the question, we answer, but then hundreds more come back and read through that again, and are able to see what the person asked and what we answered as well. And so it's just something that will always be there, which people can always come back and read over and over again. So...
where Israelis can go once they receive Yeshua?
Yes, there is something in Israel. It's called the Global Messianic Network, and all the leaders, ministry leaders and pastors are on that list. And basically, it means that when I send an email, everybody can see it.
Okay, so people checking out your website here will be able to connect with the Messianic.
So if somebody contacts me and say, you know what, okay, we've been talking for 3 months, I think now it's time for me to actually meet one of you guys, or if you have some kind of a group I can check out. So we say, okay, sure, where are you from? So Be'er Sheva. Okay, I'm not going to drive 3 hours to Be'er Sheva every day, but I do have somebody to connect you with in Be'er Sheva. So I go on that network and I ask any of the pastors in Be'er Sheva can please follow up on Moshe, and almost always, we always have a problem with youth, legal issues, but besides that, it's always somebody is lifting the shoe or the hat. I don't know how you said it in English. Yeah, so also what we do is we advertise something called pay-per-click. Every time somebody see our ad, they click on it, then we pay. So we advertise on Google. So when somebody is looking for Yeshua or something like that, one of our advertisements will be there. So you can click it. Same on Facebook and YouTube.
And just another note on that is, evangelism, street evangelism, every type of evangelism has its pros and its cons. I think one of the amazing things about the internet evangelism is because people look for these certain words, and we can tell Google to only show our advertisements to, to the population in Israel over within a certain age, whatnot, but also based on certain keywords. So we can find those people that in the privacy of their own home maybe, or just while they're on their smartphone on the bus, they are already looking, they are seekers. They're not just some random person that you walk up to and they're like, where did you come from? They're already looking for something because they've typed in Messiah, they've typed in Achrit HaYamim, the end times, they've typed in Yeshua. And so we can use that system in order to pinpoint those people. And then when they see something come up on the advertisements or on the organic searches, then it's something that's already there, and they are already searching for something to start with. And so it's a lot more of a natural connection than if you just approach someone who's not really interested at all. It's not really something that's on their mind. And so that's one of the amazing things with the internet, is that we can find the people that are seeking already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, just to add on that, when Paul is quoting Elijah, when Elijah is going to God and says, God, why do you send me to Israel? They don't care about you. Then they don't believe in you. And God says, no, actually there are 7,000 who did not bow down to the Baal. Now go find them. Okay, if Elijah had Google, it would be faster. We keep explaining to everybody that when you come to Israel, when you live in Israel, you realize that almost every movement, denomination, organization, ministry that exists in the world will exist. They will have some kind of a branch in Israel, because it's Israel. Everybody wants to be there, right? The downside is that sometimes people bring their own agenda. They think, this method, this system worked for me in Germany and in Australia. It will probably work with the Jews as well. It's not going to work with the Jews. So we can enjoy, we are part of our nation. We have the same mentality. We're coming from the same culture. We speak Hebrew. Okay, so it's part of our people. It's very easy for us to relate to our own people. They don't look at us as, you guys are weird, and then you bring the gospel, which is even more weird for them. A lot of relationships that we were able to develop with most of the congregations, the mainstream congregations in Israel and the ministries. I gave the example to your question earlier. If somebody is wanting to meet with us, so we can easily connect him with a congregation anywhere in the country. That's also something very important, because many of the ministries coming from outside to Israel, most of the pastors in Israel are kind of fed up with people coming from outside trying their own thing. So they are not willing to work with them, but they are willing to work with us. All of us were experienced in media. My background, for example, before I became a missionary, it was working in advertisement companies, developing websites, those kind of things. And I really think that the number one proof, at least for us, is when we see God is blessing what we are doing and bearing fruit from it. So when we see people coming to know the Lord, and you're a Messianic congregation, you know some more than the average American, how difficult it is to see a Jewish person coming to know the Lord. And when you see one, and when you see 5, and when you see 10, it's amazing. You're overwhelmed yourself, and you know that God is blessing what you're doing, and God is on your side. And of course, now you know us, you can visit us. Yes?
For more information, visit us at www.etzheim.org. That's spelled EITZ-CHAIM.org. Or join us in Richardson, Texas for our weekly Shabbat services.